So the first point that I want to discuss when it comes to winning business from on the listing side of the business is something called equal business stature. Ian, Chow, you're probably reading about this a little bit in this book, I would imagine. Yep. And the author talks about it at great lengths. And I think it's so important for what it is that we do, because Peyton, when I listen to your conversations and other people's conversations at the appointment, it's very much one-sided. And that one side is giving up all the leverage and the power to the seller. And then we play to the seller's, we're like the puppet to them being the master, and this is what I constantly see over and over and over again, is that the seller says jump and we respond with how high. And there's a lot of newer agents fall victim to this because they're so desperate, both figuratively and literally, to get a listing that they will do, say, and agree to anything if that means the seller will sign that contract at whatever price, at whatever commission rate, under any circumstances, anything that agent can do to get the listing, they will do it. Now, I'm being a bit facetious a little bit, but I just say that to illustrate how we have to change. And in order to be more valuable, to stick out from the crowd, Peyton, we first must be different. And so a lot of the language that you use and a lot of others, language that others use in presentations is, yep, no problem, no problem. Like this giddy up tonality that nothing is a big deal, that everything is simple and easy, no problem. It's all very no problem-esque. Oh, we're going to interview other agents. Yeah, no problem. Which you're trying to be agreeable. I understand. Equal business stature means that it is equal, that one isn't over the other person, that we go into these discussions, conversations, meetings, appointments, phone calls, being the prospect's equal, and we're perfectly okay emotionally if there are people out there that don't want to do business with us. And this is the mindset that we must adopt in order to have an equal business stature with a prospect, so that we don't elevate them over us and have them dictate or have power over us or have influence over us. And this doesn't mean that you're mean or you're disrespectful. It's quite the opposite. It's quite the opposite, that we have such equal respect for one another that you must also pull that respect from the seller. And so this has everything to do with setting of expectations that I'm going to get into next. And I could probably go deeper on equal business stature, but it's a mindset that I'm going to do business with a seller because we are both in agreement and in alignment around what it means to work together. That what it is not is, I think, what most of us are doing now, to be fair, which is the seller shows up at the auditorium, your rear end gets on stage, puts on a dog and pony show, and they get to sit back comfortable with their arms crossed and listen to your little dog and pony show and judge. Move that way. Put your arm up a little bit more. Jump that way. You get the analogy. And we do that by putting the seller in the audience versus having them come up on stage with us, right? And so it's not a performance. And actually, I wrote this down on my notes for today's session. It isn't as much of a presentation as much as it is a conversation. And if we treat it as such, you won't feel the pressure of the dog and pony show so much, Peyton, that you have a very, very difficult time, I would imagine, allowing sellers to talk Because when they try to talk, it's often that you finish their sentences and you are in a major hurry to start talking yet again. And this just shows me as your coach, as someone that is very nervous, very uncertain of himself, that you, as soon as you stop talking, you feel like you're running the risk of it going somewhere that you don't like. And so what we have to do is just equal the playing field. You, me, you, and all the sellers are on the same page. All right. So what does that mean? That means that rather than try to go down a path of not only thinking it, but saying things like this, and I'm trying to get it out of my, I'm still trying to erase it from my mind too, is let me come over and show you what I can do to get your property sold, and exchanging that for, I'm not even so sure I can help. Would it make sense for us to at least have a conversation about what it could look like for us to have a working relationship in the first place? Because let's be fair. You've never met me. I've never met you. I've never seen your house. You don't know me from Adam. How in the world could we sit here on a phone call and for 1 second start to think that one would want to work with one another? This is the mindset. So giving you some practical things to think about that you might want to communicate over the phone that equals the playing field, that it's not so one-sided, that you twisted her arm so much to let her come over. It was nearly snapping off, that when you got there, the seller sits back and says, okay, show me what you got. They sit back, they're in control, and now you have to be on stage to present as the puppet, as they are the master, and they're just pulling the strings. No, what we have to do is the opposite of that, is that asking questions to get the prospect, here's the key word, to invite us over to the home, that we accept the meeting. So if you've heard me, if you've ever been with me for years and years and years and years, you have heard me say and read scripts that say as such. If you want, then I'd be happy to come over, right? That's where it comes from. If you want, I'd be happy to stop by one day, have a conversation about potentially what it is that we could do to get your property sold. Fine. I'd be happy to come over. Really, I don't mind. These are all words, practically speaking, that are designed rather to even the playing field, that it's the seller inviting us to the property versus us, twisting their arm and begging for an appointment.